My wife was cheating with 3 guys at once, but when I exposed her plans to steal everything, Hey Reddit. I never thought I'd be posting here, but life has a way of throwing curveballs. I'm Brad, a 45-year-old IT specialist living in a suburb outside of Chicago. I've been married to my wife, Karen, for 21 years. We met in college. She was the lively cheerleader, and I was the quiet guy majoring in computer science. We had this whirlwind romance, got married a year after graduation, and built a life together. We have 2 kids, Jason, who's 19 and in his 2nd year of college, and Emily, who's just turned 17. For most of our marriage, I thought we were rock solid. Sure, we had our ups and downs like any couple, but nothing that felt insurmountable. Or at least that's what I thought. It all started a year ago when Karen took up a new hobby, running. She said it was her way to get back in shape after feeling self-conscious for years. I was supportive, even proud of her determination. She joined a local running club and suddenly seemed more energetic and confident. But then, small things started changing. She'd stay out late practicing for marathons, and on weekends, she'd leave early in the morning and return hours later, all sweaty and exhausted. I had no reason to suspect anything until a few months ago. One night, while we were having dinner, Karen's phone buzzed, and she grabbed it almost instinctively, her face lighting up with a smile. She noticed me looking and quickly brushed it off, saying it was just one of the girls from the club. Something about the way she acted, though, made me uneasy. From then on, my mind started to go places I never thought it would. That was the first crack in the facade. But I never imagined it would lead me to uncover a twisted web of lies and deceit that would completely turn my world upside down. The weeks following that dinner were tense, to say the least. I tried to convince myself that I was just overreacting. Karen and I had been together for so long that it felt ridiculous to think she might be unfaithful. But once that seed of doubt was planted, it started to grow uncontrollably. She became more protective of her phone. Karen used to leave it lying around the house, but now it was always either in her hand or face down on the kitchen counter. She'd get messages late at night, then lock her screen and act like nothing happened. When I asked about it, she laughed it off, saying, "It's just the group chat. You know how those girls are, always sharing memes and talking about fitness stuff." To be honest, I wanted to believe her. I wanted to trust that my wife of 21 years was telling me the truth. So I shrugged it off until one Saturday morning when I found something I couldn't ignore. It was around 7 a.m., and I'd gotten up early to make breakfast. Karen was out for one of her long runs, so I decided to tidy up a bit before the kids woke up. I picked up a pile of laundry she'd left on the bathroom floor and noticed her workout leggings had fallen out of the basket. As I grabbed them to toss them in, something dropped from the waistband. It was a small black piece of plastic, a USB stick. I stared at it, confused. Why would Karen have a USB stick hidden in her running gear? My first instinct was to ignore it, but the curiosity and suspicion that had been brewing in my mind made me plug it into my laptop. And that's when everything changed. The drive contained a single file, a Word document titled, "For the Future." My heart was racing as I opened it. The document was a detailed itinerary of business trips, listing dates, hotels, and times over the past several months. None of this made sense. Karen doesn't travel for work, so what were these notes about? But the real kicker was at the bottom of the document. A list of names. Karen, weekends at Marriott downtown, John. Karen, midweek lunch, Steve. Karen, running group cool down. After everyone leaves, Mark. My hands started shaking as I read the lines over and over again. It wasn't just one affair, it was multiple. It wasn't just one betrayal, it was a systematic plan. I sat there, staring at the screen, the realization washing over me like a tidal wave. Karen wasn't just cheating on me. She was living a double life. For how long? How did I not see this? My thoughts were interrupted by the sound of the front door opening. I closed the laptop and shoved the USB stick back into her leggings. Karen walked into the kitchen, hair damp from sweat, face flushed. She smiled at me like it was just another Saturday morning. "Hey, honey, you're up early," she said cheerfully. I forced a smile back, the words catching in my throat. Yeah, just wanted to get ahead, start on breakfast. But inside, I was screaming. For the next few days, I couldn't look at Karen without thinking about that document. Every smile, every "I love you," it all felt fake. But I needed to be sure before I confronted her. So I did something I never thought I would. I bought a GPS tracker and discreetly placed it in her car. The next morning, she left for one of her runs as usual. I watched on my phone as the tracker showed her heading not to the park, but to a hotel downtown. Heart pounding, I decided I couldn't wait any longer. I called her. She picked up on the second ring, sounding breathless. "Hey, Brad, just finished running. What's up?" I took a deep breath. "Where are you, Karen?" There was silence on the other end. I could almost hear her calculating a response. "I'm at the park, like I said," she replied. I felt something snap inside me. "Stop lying. I know you're at the Marriott. What are you doing there?" Another pause. Then her tone changed. "Why are you tracking me, Brad? What the hell is wrong with you?" "What's wrong with me?" I shot back. "How about you tell me who John and Steve are? Or why you have a schedule for meeting them?" Her voice faltered, and then she said something that took me completely by surprise. "You weren't supposed to find out like this." I hung up, my mind racing. She didn't deny it. She just confirmed everything. Later that evening, Karen came home with a look of defiance on her face, like she was ready for a battle. The kids were out, so I took the opportunity to confront her without any interruptions. "Let's talk," I said quietly, gesturing to the living room. She hesitated, but sat down across from me. There was no pretense now, no fake smiles or excuses. "Who are they, Karen?" I asked, holding up a printed copy of the document I found. "John, Steve, Mark, how many are there?" She crossed her arms, eyes narrowed. "What does it matter? It's not like you care. You're never around, Brad. You're always so focused on work that you barely even notice me. I needed more than that. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. So, this is my fault? You're blaming me for you sleeping around." "It's not about blame," she said, voice rising. "It's about how I felt. I didn't plan for this to happen, it just did." "You didn't plan to cheat on me with multiple guys?" I scoffed. "Karen, this wasn't an accident. This was calculated. You kept a freaking itinerary." She looked away, her bravado fading for just a second. "I don't know what you want me to say. I wasn't happy, Brad. And if you'd actually paid attention, maybe you'd have realized that." I stood up, feeling anger and heartbreak surge through me. "So, what now? Are you leaving? Or was this all just some game for you?" She stared at me unblinking. "I don't know. I just need time to figure things out." "That's not good enough, Karen. I deserve to know where we stand," I said, my voice trembling. "You need to choose me or this life you've been living behind my back." Her silence told me everything I needed to know. After our confrontation, Karen moved into the guest room, claiming she needed space. I couldn't sleep, haunted by the thought of what else she might be hiding. Desperate for answers, I remembered her laptop, which she rarely used in front of me. The next morning, while she was out running again, I booted it up. To my surprise, she hadn't bothered to log out of her email. My hands were shaking as I scrolled through, searching for anything that might give me more clarity. That's when I found it, a string of emails under a hidden folder labeled plans. But they weren't just with John or Steve. They were with a lawyer. My eyes widened as I read the messages. Karen was preparing to leave me. She'd been coordinating with the lawyer for months, drafting agreements, listing assets, and even looking at new places to live. It hit me like a ton of bricks. All this time, while I thought she was figuring things out, she was getting ready to walk away. Probably once she was sure I'd never find out. And then I saw the final email that made my blood run cold. Everything will be finalized by the end of next month. Once Brad signs, I'll have what I need. She wasn't just planning to leave. She was planning to take everything. I sat there, staring at the screen, stunned by how meticulously Karen had orchestrated everything. The lawyer's emails showed she was pushing for full ownership of our house, the bulk of our savings, and even a higher share of my retirement fund. But what hit hardest was the note about our kids. She plans to argue for sole custody of Jason and Emily, the lawyer had written, citing your unstable behavior and lack of involvement as reasons. Unstable behavior? Lack of involvement? I'd worked long hours, yes, but everything I did was for our family. I felt sick to my stomach. This wasn't just about cheating or wanting out of the marriage. She was trying to paint me as a bad father, to take the kids away. I realized then that she had been setting this up for months, maybe even years. The late nights, the secret emails, the fake arguments, she started to make me seem irrational. It all made sense now. Karen wasn't just leaving me. She was planning to destroy me. I knew I had to act fast. Karen had been playing me for a fool, but I wasn't going to sit back and let her win. I took screenshots of everything, the emails, the drafts with the lawyer, and her detailed notes on how to manage me during the divorce process. Then I made a decision. I reached out to the best divorce attorney I could find, someone who had a reputation for dealing with high-stakes cases like mine. I laid it all out for him. Karen's affairs, her plan to get custody of the kids, and the emails I'd discovered. "You've got leverage," my lawyer said after reviewing everything. "She's been deceiving you, and these emails are proof. But we need to be strategic. Don't confront her yet. Let her think she's still in control." I agreed. We drew up a counterplan. I'd gather more evidence quietly, documenting her behavior and preparing a case to show the court exactly who she really was. It felt strange to be so calculating, but I knew I had to protect myself and my kids. That evening, Karen came home, acting like nothing had changed. But now I saw through every smile, every lie. And for the first time, I smiled back, because this time I was the one holding the cards. A week later, things took a turn I hadn't anticipated. Karen came home looking flustered, her usual calm, manipulative demeanor slipping. I watched as she glanced nervously at her phone and then back at me. "We need to talk," she said. I braced myself, expecting another argument, but instead, she dropped a bombshell. "John's wife found out," she whispered, voice shaking. "She's threatening to expose everything to everyone." This wasn't part of her plan. The affairs she'd so carefully hidden were about to become public knowledge, and she knew it would destroy her reputation. Suddenly, all those cool-headed strategies she'd been so confident about were crumbling. "Why should I care?" I said, keeping my voice even. "You've been lying to me for God knows how long." "Brad, please. If this goes public, I'll lose everything. The house, the custody arrangement, everything we've built," she pleaded. Everything she built? I almost laughed at the irony. She was only worried now because the perfect image she'd tried to maintain was about to shatter. It was clear she didn't care about losing me or our marriage, just about losing control. "I told you I needed time to figure things out," she continued, her voice frantic. "But this changes everything." I stayed silent, watching her unravel before my eyes. For the first time, she was the one feeling cornered. She had no idea I already had my own plans in motion. "Then maybe it's time for the truth to come out, Karen," I said quietly, turning to leave. "Brad, wait." But I was already walking away, feeling a strange sense of calm. The lies were catching up to her, and soon she'd realize just how much she stood to lose. The very next day, chaos erupted. John's wife didn't hold back. She exposed everything. Emails, photos, and messages between Karen and the other men flooded social media. Our neighbors, friends, even Karen's family were tagged. It was a complete scandal. Karen's phone wouldn't stop ringing. She frantically tried to control the damage, calling everyone to explain, but it was pointless. The news spread like wildfire. I watched it all unfold silently, feeling a strange satisfaction. For years, Karen had managed everything, every lie, every manipulation, so perfectly. And now it was all crumbling. That evening, Karen came to me, looking devastated. "Brad, please help me fix this," she begged, tears streaming down her face. "We can still work things out, right?" I looked at her, finally feeling free of her hold. "There's nothing left to fix, Karen," I said calmly. "You did this to yourself." She was left speechless as the realization of her own destruction settled in. With Karen's reputation in ruins, I knew it was time to act. I gathered all the evidence I had, her infidelity, the emails planning to manipulate the custody, and the messages revealing her true motives, and met with my lawyer. We filed for divorce the next day. With everything stacked against her, Karen had no choice but to agree to my terms: shared custody, fair division of assets, and selling the house. When I served her the papers, she looked shattered. "You're really doing this?" she whispered, voice trembling. "You made your choice long ago, Karen," I said, holding her gaze. "Now I'm making mine." There was no yelling, no pleading this time. She simply nodded, defeated, and signed the papers without a fight. As I walked out of that room, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. I'd lost the woman I thought I knew, but I was finally free from the web of lies she'd spun around me. In the weeks that followed, I started to rebuild my life. The house sold quickly, and I moved into a new place closer to work. Surprisingly, Jason and Emily took the divorce better than I'd expected. They had seen Karen's behavior unravel and seemed to understand. Karen tried reaching out a few times, but I kept my distance. I needed space to heal and focus on being the best father I could for our kids. I took up hobbies I'd long abandoned, reconnected with old friends, and felt more like myself than I had in years. It wasn't easy, though. Some nights, I'd sit and wonder how things had gone so wrong. But I also realized that sometimes losing something false opens the door to finding something real. I may never fully understand why Karen did what she did, but I'm done letting her choices define me. The man who was blindsided by betrayal is gone. Now I'm just Brad, focused on my future, my kids, and a life built on truth. A few months after the dust settled, I got an unexpected call from a mutual friend. "You won't believe this, Brad," she said, barely containing her shock. "Karen's moving out of state with one of the guys she was seeing." Apparently, in a desperate bid to salvage her life, Karen had latched onto Mark, one of the men from her running group. He'd left his own wife, and now they were planning a fresh start together. The irony? Mark's own reputation was destroyed by the scandal, and they were both struggling financially. "She's burning all her bridges, huh?" I replied, feeling strangely indifferent. The friend sighed. "It's like she's trying to escape everything and start over, but I don't think she'll find what she's looking for." Maybe she would, or maybe she'd just repeat the same mistakes. But it didn't matter anymore. Karen's story was no longer mine to worry about. I hung up the phone, realizing I felt nothing. No anger, no sadness. Just relief. Her life was heading in an entirely new direction, one filled with uncertainty. But mine was finally on the right path, and that's all that mattered. It's been a year since everything came crashing down. The legal battles are behind us, and the kids are adjusting well. We've settled into a routine, and I've grown closer to them than ever before. Surprisingly, Karen hasn't reached out since she moved. The few times she sees Jason and Emily are strained and awkward. It's clear she's struggling, but I've let go of any desire to save her. She made her choices, and I made mine. I realized that sometimes closure isn't about getting answers or apologies. It's about accepting what happened and moving forward. I've learned to focus on what I can control: my own happiness, my family, and the new life I'm building. I even started dating again, slowly, cautiously. It feels strange to open myself up after all the betrayal, but I'm taking things one step at a time. For now, I'm at peace. Karen's chapter in my life is closed, and I'm ready to write new ones filled with genuine love, trust, and respect. Looking back, I can see things more clearly now. This entire ordeal taught me a few painful but valuable lessons. First, trust your instincts. Those small, nagging feelings I had about Karen's behavior were there for a reason, even if I ignored them at first. I've learned to never dismiss my gut feelings again. Second, value yourself. I realized that I'd been compromising my own happiness for years, accepting things that I shouldn't have just to keep the peace. Now, I understand that respecting myself means standing up for what I deserve, even if it's hard. And finally, it's okay to let go. For the longest time, I held on to the idea of the person I thought Karen was and the life we'd built together. But sometimes letting go is the only way to move forward and find true peace. The journey hasn't been easy, but I've come out stronger, wiser, and ready to embrace whatever comes next. I don't know what the future holds, but I'm no longer afraid of it. As life slowly returned to normal, I realized that the storm I'd endured hadn't just torn things apart. It had cleared the way for new possibilities. I've started looking at the world with fresh eyes. Simple things like going for a morning run or cooking dinner with my kids have become moments I truly cherish. I'm no longer just surviving, I'm living. And for the first time in years, I feel hopeful. Hopeful about reconnecting with friends, exploring hobbies I'd forgotten, and even the possibility of falling in love again. I know it'll take time, but I'm no longer haunted by the past. This isn't just an ending to a painful chapter. It's the start of something new. A future I can shape on my own terms. One where I get to decide what happiness looks like. Whatever lies ahead, I'm ready for it. Because now I'm not just moving on, I'm moving forward. Thank you for following my journey. To anyone going through a similar struggle, know that there's light on the other side. Keep moving forward.